Hello, Gary Forrestal here. Something a bit different this week. We're not putting out a main show because Mars once again is going home. He loves his mother. Can't fault him for that. But yeah, so we're not recording. But what we're going to do, what we thought we'd do, is put out our first ever Patreon show. So if you join us over on Patreon, there's 10 shows there already, and we put out shows every couple of weeks, every 2 or 3, 4 weeks. We do an extra show, a bonus show for you guys. So this is the first one we ever did, and it's called, we named it His Little Legs, which is the name I wish we'd gone for this, but I decided on Trout spinners, which is okay, but it's hard to spell and things, so people can't find us. But yeah, this is our Patreon show, His Little Legs. It's well, how would you describe it, Mars? I'd say it's certainly not, we don't talk about specific XFM shows. How would you describe what we kind of talk? Not in this show, but generally.
It can sometimes be related to the XFM shows, or it can just be like questions that we get sent by our lovely Patreons. So I do highly recommend that you join us there. We won't make a regular thing of posting Patreon things. This is purely like a sample, like you would get a little detergent thing in a newspaper just to see. And then if you don't want it, you just pop it in the bin and just stay on the main thread. But basically, you set the agenda, and we talk about that basically. So in the part we've talked about football, we've talked about aliens, we've talked about history.
You Mars gave me a history quiz. Yeah, that's an important point that you make. That what we talk about, obviously, we just sort of have a chat. But if you are a Patreon, you can control what we talk about. You can suggest topics, and there is no topic off limits within legal reason. But within reason, we will discuss any topic basically that you suggest on there. And we've had topics suggested to us, done shows about specific events like the football, like Mars says. It's not a football show, don't worry, but we do talk about stuff as it happens. If you don't like that sort of stuff, I probably wouldn't subscribe because you're not going to like it. But if you kind of like the incidental chat that happens during the shows, I hope you'll like this anyway. And yeah, here's the first show for Patreon that we ever did. I won't count you down. Just start whenever you want, actually.
Hello, Patreons. This is His Little Legs, a spin-off podcast from your friends Gary and Miles from the Trout Spinners. I did actually put your name just before mine. I don't normally do that.
No. Mars has this thing, right? Everything we write, he has a real thing about putting his name first, whether it's more my idea or his idea. He just, and I don't mind. So, but he always has his name first. So yeah, it's fine. It's Miles and Gary. I don't care. It's not alphabetical, which most people do. But yeah, Miles and Gary, whatever. Anyway,
you serve your best wine first at the start of a meal. Then everyone's too trashed at the end to care or remember that they were there.
Gary, for when people are trashed. So welcome to the show. This is a special show, as Mars says, for our patrons, and we've only set up an account about a week ago. We've got 5 patrons so far. We're incredibly grateful to all of you. So the patrons we've got at the moment are not in the order they signed up for, but just the order I've got it here: Henry Marwood, Thomas Mars, David McGear, Daisy Elizabeth, and Peter Emanuelson. Sounds like a porn star. Emanuelson. No, I don't know why. Emmanuel, that's what I was thinking. But thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And any amount you can pay is very much appreciated. And this is a show kind of just for you guys and people who sign up in the future. So at the moment, there is no specific format. We're not the main show. We're talking about each XFM show in order, obviously, and that's what we're doing. But this show is looser. It has less structure. We're not diving into a particular show, but we're going to have the agenda of what we talk about set by you guys. So, send us comments and write on the Patreon comment section or whatever. Did I sound technical enough there, Mars?
It was all right. Yeah, it's not bad.
Let us know what sort of stuff you'd like us to talk about, and we will do shows about that. And we'll also be posting little video clips and things as well of ourselves, so you can see us in all our glory. And that's what this show's about. So it's a bit looser. Bear that in mind. I would say this is take 2.
Yeah.
So bear that in mind when you're listening to this. This is our second take of this show because
Loose and vague. What I look for in a woman.
yeah, that's loose and vague. Yeah, that's on my grinder.
So, what are we going to do today? So, I've actually been perusing the Reddit thread, kind of where we sort of started when I first came up with the idea for this podcast. And I told Gary, and I ran in, I said, look, I've got this amazing idea for this podcast. Why don't we chat about a thing that we like, which is the XFM shows? And Gary said, that's the best idea I've ever heard. And I agreed.
I can't hang on. I can't even be bothered. I can't even be bothered to correct all the stuff that's wrong there. You carry on. Go on.
Thanks very much.
It was his idea. That's the only thing that's true.
Yeah, and all the subsequent comments after that. But I've been on the Reddit thread, kind of looking at theories of the show, and I thought, in absence of anything else, we can maybe look into those and give our thoughts and opinions on what other people are saying.
Yeah, because these are like more general theories about the show as a whole, rather than diving into a particular episode, which we will save for the main show.
Yeah. So do you want the first one?
So, yeah, what are these? These are theories that people have written about the show. Because I'm intrigued. I don't know what you're going to say here.
So people on the Reddit thread, they basically either share photos or memes or just little comments or quotes that they like, but they also go into, as many of our listeners do already, go into an incredible amount of detail and thorough analysis of the shows, the sort of things that we like to do, right? The first one is this: Carl's dad makes an awful lot up. Crashing the train into the station, kid in a wheelie bin, nicking from the telephone box, even his brother going to the shops in a tank. I think a lot of these stories are made up by Carl's dad to trick Carl, or are actually just jokes that Carl took seriously. I think he knows his son is gullible, so he makes them up to entertain him. Some theories: crashing the train, probably a real incident that Carl's dad inserted himself into. Kid in a wheelie bin, probably made that to scare Carl into not annoying him into a car trip. Old ladies in a taxi, again probably to stop Carl annoying him whilst driving. Going to the shops in a tank, made up to cover for the real reason Carl's brother got kicked out. I mean, that's quite an interesting thing, because that immediately makes me think of Arrested Development, which I love that show, and that the dad's friend who he gets to scare the kids, and that's why you don't drive when his arm comes off.
I haven't seen enough Arrested Development. Really I like what I've seen, but
they get this guy and he hasn't got an arm. So when all the kids are really young, they get him to. His dad basically pays him to like rip his arm off in strange and different ways to scare the kids, so they'll learn in the future. It's like learning a moral, or a life lesson.
It's an interesting theory, and I think it could be true. I think it's a mix though of Carl's dad making things up to Carl, and Carl making things up on the radio. When I say making up, I don't mean, it's an outright blatant lie that's kind of, pernicious or anything. It's misremembering a lot of things that happen. I think Carl either makes some stuff up. He definitely makes some stuff up, and he definitely misremembers some stuff. With the things like crashing the train into the station, that's a very detailed story that Carl tells. So if it is made up, it will be Carl's dad making it up to Carl. And I agree with the listener, or not the listener, the Reddit thread poster. But yeah, it could be true. Yeah, interesting. Carl's dad probably makes stuff up. Carl also makes some of the stuff up, I think, as well. And definitely, I've always thought the kid in the wheelie bin thing cannot be true.
I believe that he put a kid in a wheelie bin. I don't believe he left him there for going to Blackpool.
but imagine, think of him actually putting a kid in a wheelie bin.
They're really high as well, aren't they, wheelie bins?
I don't just mean the physical difficulties of doing it. I just mean
he wasn't a normal kid, Gary.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's even more reason. Yeah, just chuck him, leave him by the bins. But it just doesn't make sense to me that he would do that, and to resolve a situation where this kid was causing trouble.
But how would you have resolved that situation?
Probably with
mild manner and a sort of a firm telling off.
I would have bargained with
bribery.
I mean him.
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have. You just get calm. You might chuck him off the bus, put him to the back seat or something, or say you've got to come up the front by me.
Rosa Parks treatment. Do the old Rosa Parks on him.
Yeah. He is a legendary civil rights figure. This little kid in the wheelie bin. But yeah, it doesn't. It's always sort of not quite sat with me, and I don't know if Carl's making it up, Carl's dad, but I don't think it happened. But it's it could be. Hit parade or shit parade? Are we doing that? I think it's a mix, but generally hit parade. That
I just love. And Carl does mention this in the show when he says people used to have multiple jobs back then. They don't seem to do that now. Like having learning a trade, sort of jack of all trades, essentially. And Carl's dad definitely did fulfill that. And I bet actually there were things that did inspire him from his dad, like Sick of It. Carl plays a character who's a cab driver, and you automatically make that leap with his dad being a cabbie, and the sort of interesting stories that you must get. So
I've no doubt that's taken from his dad. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So no, may be some truth in that.
I do believe. But one thing I do believe is that he had the nickname Spudhead for that woman.
100%.
That's too intricate to kind of make up very specifically like that. And I do believe he took Carl on journeys, and the woman was there sometimes. I do believe that kind of thing. I do believe putting a kid in the wheelie bin. Not sure. I even believe the train crashing in the station. That's a very detailed story. I kind of think that's the sort of thing I can imagine happening. So, and the Reddit thread poster might well be right that maybe Carl's dad was on a train as a minor conductor or something that leapt forward, but it wasn't him that did it. It was something that happened to Carl's dad, and he's kind of put himself into the story. But I do believe it happened. But certainly most of the stuff I think is true. I just think there's little bits that are made up here and there from Carl.
Yeah, I probably agree. So this one is it's a good question, actually, and they often mention things that I don't really think about. What is your most profound anecdote from the life of Carl Pilkington? Like many of you, I tend to knock around with the number of Carl Pilkington anecdotes every so often spring into mind, a bit like you might get a song stuck in your head out of the blue. Lately, I've become obsessed with Carl's encounter with the Hare Krishna fella, in which he is handed a plum. As Steve points out, this is like something out of a religious painting, a couple of bold, holy men exchanging fruits and tokens of wisdom. What is your holy shit? That is actually quite deep moment from the 300-page book that is Carl Pilkington's life.
Yeah. Good question. For the most profound, it's a very specific thing. It's not the most funny, it's not the most memorable, but the most profound. I don't know. There's so many to pick from. Just his childhood stories. I've got one. So for me, one of them. It's only a little anecdote, but a similar-ish thing happened to me, and it's where Carl talks about how his life could have been completely different because he nearly killed a man once, and I think he threw something off a cliff, so not a cliff but like a hill, and it nearly hit someone. Now I was on holiday and on the beach, and I was about 8 or 9, and I picked up this big rock, and the sea was just in front of me on the beach, and I threw it as far as I could, and there was a little canoe with a dad and a daughter. I didn't see them until I'd thrown the rock, and it was just heading right for them, and it just missed them. And I still think about that moment today, and it's kind of like, God, my life could have been completely different. I wouldn't have gone to prison if I was like 8 or 9, and neither would Carl, but you would have got a sanction, something would happen, you could have killed someone. How would that have affected the rest of your life? So I think for me, that's one of them. I mean, certainly there's more memorable and funny ones, but that one I can relate to. It's a very real. I can totally believe it. Whereas some of his anecdotes, you think he's misremembering, not necessarily on purpose, but there's some embellishment here of the anecdote. Whereas that one, I think it happened.
That's true. Like how it's almost like it's written in the stars that you did this podcast having such a similar experience.
So I'll get a letter in the post from Mrs. Harris. It's so profound. It's meant to be.
If only your bank balance had those 6 figures as well.
Absolutely.
6 figures, it would be more than that, wouldn't it?
How many subscribers would we need? We need at least 5 figures of subscribers to get 6 figures.
It's weird though, you saying that story. Like, I keep having this reoccurring dream where I've killed someone when I was really young, and I bury the body, and I feel really scared that I'm going to be put into prison. Like, prison's probably behind going bald, death. Prison is my third greatest worry. And I've had this dream so many times. It's like an anxiety dream. I keep having it. I honestly must have it at least once a month. So kind of convince myself that it's actually happened. It's really weird.
That's really dark for a dream.
It's dark.
It's not just the fact, because I've dreamed I've killed someone, and I've dreamed I've been going off in a police car, and you kind of get released halfway through, and it's a very odd dream. Like, killed someone who I didn't get on with as a child, and I was that kind of age. But burying the body is a very specific part of killing someone that you're dreaming of as well, which is quite interesting.
It's probably like sort of Freudian.
Good job this isn't the main podcast, because like it's a good job this is hidden from most people.
I quite like it. It's probably like a metaphor for burying a secret or something, and then you're worried that secret's going to be found out. And I've got so many secrets.
You speak as someone who has visited like whatdoesmydreammean.com or dreamstation.com. It probably does mean that, yeah. Or it could be there's something in life that is unfinished and you need to
so
complete.
Many things, Gary.
Yeah, girlfriend.
Our careers. I don't know.
Well, they should be unfinished. We're only in our 30s. Both in our 30s is
both in our 30s. My most profound anecdote from Carl is knowledge is annoying. And like added to that, people who have more knowledge, you talk about like Newton, always like stressed out. Is that sort of ignorance is bliss thing, isn't it? Which I can definitely relate to that.
Well, me and you
probably more now than ever, like with just the sheer amount of news and the consumption of news media.
Me and you, because I just on that, me and you were talking about about politics. I think it's about the American election or something, just on over messages. And you did actually use that. You said it is true what Carl says, knowledge is annoying. This was a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of the Carl's anecdotes where it is true. And then I said to you, that's true, but also, if you have a complete lack of interest in gaining knowledge, that's very bad. But a big amount of knowledge, particularly about what's going on now, can be annoying. Is a funny word to use from Carl. It's a typical Carl word to use, but it's more it's harmful. It can be harmful to your well. Annoying is a funny word. It's just funny to use that word.
It is though, because you thinking more, you end up obsessing about things that are so out of your control. And as a result of it, your sort of mental health will suffer. I also find it makes like the days go by so much quicker when you're like just consuming all this stuff. And you should like probably take more time to sort of slow down a bit. And I don't know, just do something that's a bit more real than all of that stuff. Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, live in your own mind a bit more. I think that's a better way to live your life. But now I don't know. I think because we're in our house, we've got such little going on. I went for a walk with a friend the other day. I don't consider her like a close friend, but someone I get on well with, and I was genuinely worried I'd run out of things to talk about with her. And I was just sort of saying words as we walked around. I'm sure she wasn't feeling as anxious as what I was, but I was just thinking about clean the oven the other day. I was just anything to sort of keep the conversation up.
I've been on dates, like first dates before, from internet dating, and worried about that would happen as well, and written down on a piece of like some
wrote stuff down
just to try and memorize and put it in my pocket so that I could go to the toilet and get it out and have a look. So but I don't usually, usually I don't you don't particularly worry about running out of conversation with a friend.
Absolutely not. No. The next theory is
that good enough for you?
It's all right.
Keep this in the.
We'll keep it in. I can add a bed. I'm joking. How on earth have Ricky and Carl managed 30+ year relationships? I don't think that's like a friendship. I think they mean
with their partners.
Yeah, a love interest.
A what?
A love interest. A partner.
What's that?
I actually say that now. I actually say my partner for my girlfriend. I never used to say that before. I don't. Girlfriend sounds a bit.
Say my business partner or something. What do you my associate?
associate to the firm of the brand Miles. It's
Miles doesn't. That's only half joking. In fact, it's not even half joking. He believes he's a brand. But anyway,
I got that from John Robbins because he says it all the time. It's really funny. You got to listen to that show. John Robbins and Ellis James, everyone. Do recommend it. Daisy, actually, and I were talking over Instagram about it. I'm also on Instagram, guys, Duchess_Pennell. You can also get in touch with us at Spinners Podcast or an email, spinnerspodcast@gmail.com.
I've got a phone. Should I give out my phone number?
You were going to do that once, didn't you?
I did. I did a few times, nearly give it out, and you edited it out, apparently. But you can write to me at bbc.org.uk.
Keep dreaming. So what do you make of that? How have they maintained such long-term relationships?
That was the theory.
Yeah.
It's quite a short one.
So where's the question? It's not a theory.
I think that I can see both of them in a relationship that long. You know, Ricky's the sort of person who I think he's definitely, one thing he's not is, like, you can imagine a player, like even being mega famous. And if he was single, he could sleep with all sorts of people, anyone that you like. But I don't think he would, even if he's single. I think he's naturally predisposed to be with someone. And also he realizes that Jane is the reason for his success, or is one of the reasons. Without Jane, I don't think he'd be as successful as he is, because he needs that kind of
why do you think that?
Because I think he needs that kind of grounding. Ricky's very creative, very funny. He's got lots of ideas, but he's all over the place with things. And he would spend too long, I think, just messing around in general in life without the kind of grounding of his partner. Now, he does mess around. He messes around with Carl and things, but he's also, then he goes home and he's got that stability and that sort of rock by him. I think it gives him confidence as well. It gives him the confidence to kind of do what he wants, because that sort of thing, it does give you some confidence. So again, I think it helps him in a number of different ways. And I don't think he would be on the streets without Jane. I think he would be famous and in TV, but I just don't think he'll be as famous. Like, I can imagine when he's making a decision which flat to buy in New York. Jane's a big part of that decision, where to live, sort of what to do functionally to kind of get through, when he can do all the crazy stuff and all the creative stuff, and she is the kind of more serious stability stuff that you also need in life, whoever you are. So I can see him being with Jane, you know, for the rest of his life. And with Carl, with Suzanne, that's harder to see. That's harder, because I often think, you know, Suzanne puts up with a lot. I mean, Carl slags her off on air, apart from anything else. Like,
that's you would only do that if you felt comfortable in a relationship.
I know, but I think it's kind of he's doing it to a national radio audience, and so I would feel a bit. You might joke with each other if you feel comfortable, but he's doing it to a radio audience. So, you know, but yeah, again, the thing about Carl that's similar to Ricky in that sense is that he's not a player. I don't think he would go around sleeping with lots of women if he was.
I don't think Carl could. Well, he even said, like, how would you feel like if you couldn't, you know?
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me now. I
don't think it would bother me. Like, but also, Carl is one of those people that he does sort of think he is quite selfish in the way that he thinks. Definitely during that period, because it's all about, you know, what do you think Suzanne brings to the relationship? So she'll, when you go on holiday, it's like she'll sort of make things more interesting to me.
Yeah,
that I otherwise would have been. And obviously she books all the holidays, she does all of the planning, and also interesting correlation between the two. Both Jane and Suzanne, they're both in production, aren't they? Or they probably are. And
sports.
It's a different mindset, isn't it? Like, you know, that production, being very organized, trying to be as efficient and methodical. But it's fun when they do that episode in the Ricky Gervais show on the animation. It's like, so Suzanne's at work all day, she comes back, Carl's been like doing DIY in the house, and Suzanne's still got to cook when she gets home.
I know.
It's so unfair. Like,
but I think some of that is embellished. Like, I think that Carl does help more around the house, but he's keeping in character to kind of sort of say, you know, I don't do these things. So they are two people who I can imagine, and you never hear them talk about women in a sexual way. Like, I know they're on air anyway, so they probably wouldn't, but I can't imagine them going down the pub and saying, oh gosh, she looks fit, you know, or check out that arse. Also, I can't imagine either of them ever saying that. To any
I
of
can't
their
even
friends.
imagine you saying that.
No, I don't. We don't when we're together. Well,
So
you
the
have.
fact that when you said it, you're like, check out her ass.
I didn't even like saying it's rude word, Mike. But
It is rude.
yeah. So I think that good luck to them. You know, they've obviously. Carl and Suzanne won't ever split up, and Ricky and Jane won't split up, and it's a testament because if you so many relationships in, let's just say Hollywood, but also TV in general, break down because one person gets famous, usually the man, and then he sleeps with someone. I just can't see it happening with them. I think they're different in that sense, and that's to both of their credit.
It's funny, you know, because, you know, talking about people being, you know, comfortable in a relationship, and I can only say this because my girlfriend's in the room right now, but she's wearing earphones. It's like, I got
do
really
the impression?
No, don't do that.
No, I should not.
Because
we're both.
don't turn it to Pretty Patel. It's that was topical for me.
Oh, you don't like topical. You like topical when you come up with it. Anyway, carry on.
Anyway, I went downstairs and I was like, I started making dinner or lunch, and then my girlfriend came downstairs and I was like, well, what are you doing? I was like, she's like, making lunch. She was having something different to me. That would be meaningless to anyone.
I know, but you know.
I said you can't do that because I'm cooking and I need some time away from you. I was like, this is like Miles's time where I just have my earphones on. I can sort of sing and dance a bit and dress a nice salad, make a nice.
Leave the cooker on.
Yeah, don't leave the cooker on.
Miles not allowed to leave the cooker on because of his.
No, I'm not allowed to.
Doesn't let him.
My housemate doesn't let me sit away from the oven. I've got to sit just in case the house explodes, which it hasn't yet. I'm pleased to say at 30 years old. But yeah, I think that's true. But she didn't. We had a little bit of an argument about it, but it was like, I think we were both pretty mutually understanding that I need my space and cooking incredibly important to me.
Well, there you go. You're gonna, you know, in 30 years, you'll be people writing emails saying, "Can you believe how is Miles still with his Galena?" Oh, sorry, I should. Okay,
right.
Cut that a little bit. How is Miles still with space? Is so important to me. I couldn't. Yeah, you will be. You'll be dead in 20 years. I think I'll be dead in 3. I imagine. But my relationships haven't worked out because, well, for a number of reasons. But I really need space too much, and it's not fair because I'm like, I was always saying to my ex-girlfriend, you know, why don't you go to your parents again? You know, why don't you go because they live a bit far away. So like, why don't you go? And she got really pissed off, and I was like, okay.
My ex was like that. She was like, she thought there was something wrong if I went home without her, and I was like, and it took me a lot of time to get the confidence to say, look, it's not that I hate you, it's like I hate you and I want to be away.
What did you say at the time, Miles? Because it wasn't that.
It was that was a horrible relationship. But less about that. It's true though. I can't, at the same time, I can't really imagine. I don't know what you'd be like in a relationship.
I'm pretty good if anyone's listening. No. But no, I'm just a normal, you know, I'm a normal human being, Miles, with wants, needs, and I give a lot. All right.
Wow. And then don't want to know about that.
I'm genuinely happy, kind of single. But the thing about it is, being in a relationship gives you that confidence. Even if you're happy being single, you lack that confidence that you have being in a relationship. Just being out with friends, not with your partner, but just being out with friends. It's like, yeah, I'm going home to, you know, a partner, and you know, we're together, and as long as it's a happy relationship, it gives you something extra. So I think, as I say, I don't think Ricky or Carl would have their partners.
It's kind of like what we had in common though when we first met, because we were both in incredibly damaging relationships.
Well, we actually.
Should we stay out for another pint? Should we stay out for another pint?
Yeah,
Should we stay out for another pint? Should we stay out
It's like Tuesday. We started on Sunday. We even write that on applications when we write a script, and we got to write a bio. We say we bonded over Oasis and terrible relationships. So yeah, if Daisy's listening, wasn't terrible, but it wasn't. No, she's not going to be listening. It's not great. No. It wasn't great, but yes, now you have a good relationship, and I don't have a relationship at all, Miles. So there you go. Well, what can we bond over now?
Oh, the XFM show.
Sports, films.
Oh, no. My last theory, and this is just a quick one, I think.
It's a Reddit theory. It's a Reddit theory, not yours.
No. There is no way Carl really believes most monkey news. He's fully aware it's BS, mostly because he's just making them up as he goes along. Like monkeys in chat rooms that speak, have jobs, ride bikes. They have hobbies like photography and have PhDs on that.
I've actually spoken on this before and said that he doesn't believe. Apart from the first 2 or 3, which are, realistic, like a monkey being loose in was it Clapham or somewhere? That probably happened. And the monkey Oliver, the humanzee, those are kind of real things. When it gets to there's no car at Pump 4, by that time he doesn't believe it. So I've said that before, and you said no, he does believe it all, but he clearly doesn't. No, he's not stupid. He's not stupid. He's silly, but he's not stupid.
I'm probably in more alignment with you now, actually. I think what I think about it is, I think he deeply wants to believe that that's the world that you live in, and because I like the thought of that, living your life in this sphere of fantasy. I think it's just I think people lose that sense of childishness and imagination as you get older, because when you get older, you kind of strip all that imagination and fun out of your day lives, because we're so focused on meeting targets and deadlines and living well, and particularly with social media and stuff. And I think that's never really been a concern of Carl. He's happy to live in his little bubble, and I think that's a nice thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of the adult equivalent of playing with dinosaurs or something. Yeah. Like just pretending they're real. A child, if you said to them, if they're playing with dinosaurs, do you think that's a real dinosaur? And you play, and they'll say, no, I don't think they believe it. But yeah, I agree with that. They kind of want it to be true, and it's nice. And we do lose that. I lost it about 3. Like, too serious at that age. But it's harder to suspend your disbelief. And I think Carl's just living in a world where it would be nice if I'd love a monkey to drive away from a gas station.
That'd be hilarious. It'd be great.
To Spain. Think of that. It's clearly, he doesn't believe it. That fear is complete.
To wrap up, Gary, I thought it might be quite nice just to shoot some quick rockbusters that were sent by Peter Emanuelson, who's one of our lovely Patreons.
Yes, he's a Patreon. Yeah.
Are you up for it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I have had a look over these, and I'm slightly concerned. But you'll be okay, I think. Well, you won't, but you might not know who the first one is, but I can help. I have this big tank, but instead of water, I use it to store the sunlight from this morning. SOAD. I nearly said it. SOAD.
Clearly sister something. SOAD?
Yes.
Oh, I know that because I actually know this. I have no idea what their music sounds like, and I can't even relate it to the Clue. But just given the initials, I imagine it's something called like System of a Down.
Yes, how the hell did you know that? That is so.
I never heard of System of a Down. I swear I didn't look. I swear, but
did you not?
I know System of a Down.
So the explanation I'm given is, and this is very KP, System of a Dawn. System of a Dawn. Not bad. I actually did used to listen to System of a Down at this. We had this little indie club in Ipswich where I'm from, and you could go there at 16 and drink Red Bull and sneak in like a hip flask of vodka and jump in a mosh pit. I remember even back then I was like, no, it's a bit messy, that. It looks a bit dangerous.
I think, but it always amazes me, and it's funny that Steve is into that kind of music and that he goes to like mosh pits, because can you imagine the chaos of Steve being that he's so like thin and tall,
and also he's talking about Rage Against the Machine, and I was there that year at Reading, and it was fucking mental. It was brutal.
Yeah,
I told you about that time at Reading Festival, didn't I? I mean, the first time I got my parents to pick me up because I couldn't go to the toilet. Second time I went, I went with my partner. One of my mates got kicked out because he had a flare. Another one got kicked out because he had weed. And so it was just they all cleared off, left our tent there. And there's a bit of a ritual at Reading Festival in the UK where they just burn everything down. And essentially, I took it in shifts where we both sat out, me and my girlfriend, it was at the time, and literally just sat outside in our chair. Some person came over and said, "Excuse me, do you mind if I burn your tent?" I went, "Oh, do you know what? I do actually mind, mate."
You're telling me people go around burning stuff, like everything at the Reading Festival.
Seriously, they like throw gas canisters and
Is
shit.
that why you couldn't go to the toilet the first time? Because you were worried about the flames?
It was the long drop, but that is a concern.
Really, I wish I was there with you.
Wish I went there. Come on, let's do the second one.
So System of a Down are like Rage Against the Machine, basically.
They're a bit harder than. Well, I don't know. Yeah, they're quite heavy.
Is that your NME article draft?
The second one. A horned Canadian animal lies on top of a fella who pays for sex. EJ.
Well, I mean, the initials scream Elton John, so I'm guessing.
And you'd be right. Elk on John. I guess John Thomas. Is that right? No, John, or just the person who pays.
What was the read the clue again? I'm furious. No, I'm joking.
A horned Canadian animal. That's the elk. Lies on top of a fella. That's John, who pays for sex.
Elton John.
John.
Why is John pay for sex? Explain, Peter, in another email. I'd like to know. I'd like to know your explanation for these Rockbusters.
I think he's had a lot of work.
They're in spirit, so we like them.
Next one. This castrated bull looks like it's praying. AL. It's quite good, actually, this one.
Okay, I've got it.
Go on.
But I'm just working through why it is that. So hang on. So this castrated bull. Okay, it's Annie Lennox, because ox at the end it refers to the bull. So I know that it was in the initials, obviously. So I'm just trying to work out how that is Annie Lennox. Lennox. I don't get it, but I got it.
Okay, so here we go. A kneeling ox. A kneeling ox. Annie Lennox. A kneeling ox. Okay. That is a Metallica. Metallica.
But that sounds the same, but Metallica, to be fair.
Well, thank you for those, Peter. You did actually, he got all three based on the initials. So well done. Carry on.
Yeah. No, thanks, Peter. They're funny. Yeah, keep them coming in, and make them just as shit. I'm joking.
Anyway, guys, no, this has been fun. I've enjoyed doing this episode.
Remember, I haven't. Remember to leave your suggestions for what you want us to talk about. It's your show, effectively. It's for you guys. So we will, if it's, and don't say like terrorism, please. You can say terrorism, but we can talk about that. But, no, you can say whatever you want, but we can just delete it if we don't like it. Yeah, let us know, and thanks very much for your subscriptions. We really genuinely appreciate it a lot. So this is for you.
Yeah, there will be more shows to come, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I actually did go out and filmed a little XFM tour around London where I live, and I've visited all of the hotspots, and my friend's currently editing them all together. So really looking forward to sharing that. It's just going to be like a sort of little 3 or 4 minute thing, but something a little bit different in addition to all of the podcasts that we plan to put out in the future. So
I'll be filming myself on my phone going like, hi.
Hello.
But no, we'll put little video clips out. I will say now, mine will not be edited to the extent that ours will be.
I'd quite like to see you either read from the Guinness World Record out loud or eat 5 burgers live on air. I'd pay at least.
I've still got those grapes in my fridge from when we did the grapes. I know they're probably disgusting by now, but anyway.
What's in your fridge at the moment? Let's just quickly do that.
I've got a chicken chow mein.
Are you having that later?
I've got a like paella.
No, that I didn't make. Are these ready meals or?
That was a ready meal. No, the chicken chow mein was from the Chinese.
From our little mate, yeah.
Mr. Gary. Anyway, and that's what I've got. Anyway, I'm not going to go and look in my fridge.
I'm excited about that.
Gary's fridge. If the listener, I'll tell you what. If you're a Patreon, write down to us. Do you want to know what's in my fridge
every week?
Yes or no?
And we'll compare fridges at the end.
Yeah.
All right, cheers, guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon. That was quite fun, actually.